Concord 9th's Springtime Medley release is now available, and it's a good one. Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca Keppel, and in today's video I will be sharing the entire Springtime Medley release. Concord 9th asked me to guest design this month, so I have everything to share with you. So let's jump right into the card making, and as we go I'll show you the individual bundles that are available. First up, we have the Mixtape Rewind bundle. I don't know about all of you, but mixtapes played a huge role in my younger life. And so I was super excited to see this die set where you can create a cassette tape and a little envelope to slide it into. There's also a stamp set that coordinates perfectly. Of course, my kids, I don't think have ever even seen a cassette tape, but I think this is such a fun set. So I'm going to cut out the envelope first. This is a little slide pocket. So all I'll do is fold up on the score lines just to get them started, and then use a bone folder to reinforce the folds and to make them nice and crisp. This way, when I'm ready to put everything together, I won't have any buckling or folding in the wrong area. So there's two little flaps, and then there's the other side of the envelope, and it just closes onto those little flaps. And then I'll reinforce all those score lines once again to make sure it folds up nice and flat. So I have some double-sided tape, and I'll place it down on each of the two small flaps. And the great thing about double-sided tape, if you haven't used it, is that you can tear it, but double-sided tape is very strong once you have it adhered down and you reinforce it again by kind of burnishing the tape into the paper. So here's a longer strip on the side of that double-sided tape, and then I'll just tear off the excess so it doesn't hang off the side. Maybe you've seen one of my videos where I shared this tool. It's from Polka Doodles, and they have this really cool tool that helps scratch up the end of the liner on that double-sided tape so you don't have to use your nails to try and pick at it. I love this tool. I think it is so handy. It works perfectly. Once I got those tapes revealed, I'll just close it up, and that creates this little pocket envelope to slide my little cassette tape card into. So I'll set that aside until the end. This die cuts out the cassette tape card base, and then the die that I just cut out cuts out sort of the detailing that you put on one side of that card base. So you can see there's even a score line there that cuts out the card base. I love that these dies are included so you don't really have to measure anything. You just cut everything out and then start putting it together. So there's lots of little pieces that you can add to your cassette tape to make it look more realistic. This piece at the bottom is kind of that raised part of the cassette tape at the bottom that kind of clicks into the tape player there. And then these little pieces here are the tape and then the wheels that the tape player like sits into as well. There's also some dies to create little stripes on the side of the tape. So I'll put those down first and then put the little wheels in the center with the tape down next, and then place the black piece that I've cut out around the outside. So everything on that little stripe area gets sort of covered up on the side and looks like it's all just perfectly together as one piece. And then you can see how this folds up so nicely and creates this cute little card. Absolutely adorable, but there's more that you can do to accessorize it and to customize it. So first I'm stamping some little lines. That's like the label on the cassette tape where you would write in the name of whatever you had recorded on there. And instead of that, we have a sentiment there. So there's several sentiments available, but I love this one, You're My Jam. There's also little dies to cut out small hearts and music notes. I wanted to add all of those on there just because they're so much fun. So here's my finished cassette tape card, and then let me show you how easily it just slides right into that pocket envelope. Everything fits exactly perfectly. There's also a die set included in this that is shadows and letters, and it spells out "You rock." Now I cut my shadows out of both black cardstock, but you can see how they're separate, so you could actually cut them out of two different colors. So like you could do a dark blue behind the rock and a light pink behind the This also fits perfectly a gift card. So I'm sure you noticed that was basically the size, but look at that. It just fits perfectly inside the little cassette card. And then that all slides right into the envelope. And I absolutely adore this set. Next up, we have a very springy set. It's called Chicken Chatter Bundle, and there's stamps and dies. Now, there are dies to cut out the stamps, and there are also layering dies. So you can either get both sets as a bundle, or you can get them individually and do something with each of them individually. I'm starting with the stamp set. So the stamp set is mostly a two-step layering stamp set. There's some that have a couple more layers, but mostly it's two stamps that really complete the layering process. So here I have a chicken stamped in grapefruit ink from Concord 9th and one stamped in aqua. This is my favorite color combination of their inks. I absolutely love these two colors together, and it's very springy, so that was perfect. There's a little chick that you can stamp, and then the second layer is the beak and the eyes, and then there's an egg, and the second layer is the little speckles on the egg. So same thing with the flower. There's little additions to the flower. Now, I cut the chickens out without stamping the heads, and that's because I wanted them to line up perfectly, and I wasn't sure I was going to be able to do it if I stamped them together first. But if you die cut them, place them back in the paper, and then stamp them, you'll get a perfect placement of those little head area items. It's like the beak and the eye and the little feathers on top. So now it's just adding these with some pop-up foam adhesive. I have these micro foam squares from Spellbinders, and they fit perfectly behind those little leaves. This is such a fun set to use. I'll also use it with this new Easter greetings dies, so perfect for spring, Easter, and these are layerable dies. There's shadows, and then there's letters or words, and this one says Happy Easter, so I cut the shadow out of some aqua cardstock, and now I'll cut the shadow and the letters together so that I have a full piece that I can add on top of that light blue cardstock in the back. All I need to do is add little dots of adhesive in the areas where there's open spaces that I need to add a little bit of that piece of cardstock. It was all still stuck in the die, so I just poked them out from there. Now I'll use the dies from the Chicken Chatter bundle, and like I mentioned, they're kind of layering dies as well. So I'm adding some little eyes behind all of these. Now that's not a layer, that's just me adding a little piece of black cardstock behind it. But you can see the chicken head is 2 layers, and then the body, you could add some cardstock behind it. I decided to just adhere it down to the white cardstock that I'll be using as my card panel, and then it looks like the little feathers on the chicken or the details are white. And then I have a little bow on one, a little shawl or kerchief on another, and the little chick and little egg. So basically you get all the kind of details that you had in the stamp set in a die version, which is so much fun. So I like having both, so you can mix and match a little bit, and you can play with either cardstock or ink colors depending on which is your favorite technique. Next up, we have another springtime favorite kind of look. It's the Bright Blossoms bundle. So you can see there is a die set, there's a small stamp set as well. The main die in the die set is this panel die, and it is the perfect die to do die cut inlay on. So the main piece here, I am adding some liquid adhesive behind, and then I'll place it down on some white cardstock. You could absolutely place it down on a colorful cardstock. I really like white on white, but then I am coloring in all the little pieces that fell out of that main background. So I have 2 different colors of ink for these main flowers here, and I'm going very lightly at first and then just adding some color. I don't want these to be too bright and overwhelming, except where the flower centers are going to be a little bit brighter. I'm using the same color as I used in the center of the flower. That's why I decided to go a little darker, just so it stood out as that flower center. These are very easy to pop back in place. You just need to kind of rotate them until you realize where the little die cut fits in, but it's like a little puzzle. You're just putting it back together. You can see that I have the die on the left-hand side. That just gives me an idea of where everything goes, so that I'm not just going into this without having any idea where these pieces go down and then trying to figure them out with that white on white background. The little extra pieces are leaves in the background, so those are all green. And then there's a spot here that's perfect for a sentiment, and there are several sentiments in that small stamp set. I love this one though. It says, "You brighten my day." There are dies to cut out flowers. You could add additional dimension, but I love that one just as it is. Next up, we have the perfectly tied bundle. So it's an embossing folder, a layering stencil set, a stamp, and die set in this bundle. And so there are lots of different ways to achieve really cute bows and beautiful sentiments and just a fun look. So I'm starting with an A2 piece of white cardstock, and I'll put it in the embossing folder and then send that through my die cut machine. Next, I'll take the first stencil layer and lay that down and tape it on the side so that it stays in place. It's very easy to line up because of those embossed bows. Next, I'll take the second stencil layer and use a different or slightly darker color. This time I'm using honeysuckle, and ink blend that over all of the open spaces. So I'm only using 2 colors here, but look at how cute those bows come out. They look dimensional because of the 2 tones. Next, I'll take a white piece of cardstock and treat it with anti-static powder. And then I have one of the bows from the stamp set and a sentiment from the stamp set. And I'll ink that up with Versamark ink and then stamp it and then pour gold embossing powder on top. I absolutely love the look of gold and pink together. So this is one of my favorite combinations for spring, for summer, for just all year round, really. Next, I'll take the dies and cut those 2 elements out. And I decided to stamp some small hearts and another small bow in a pink color, a little bit lighter than I used for the bows. I cut the embossed panel down to 4 by 5 1/4 and matted it on some metallic foil cardstock from Concord 9th. And then I'll pop up the sentiment, the little hearts, and the little bow. And this is such an easy card to complete, but it has such a pretty look. I'll use those bows without the embossing folder this time, so I'm just using the layered stencils, and this time I'm making a horizontal card, so you'll see different bows in this background than you did in the first background where I used a vertical format. So I love the 2-tone again in blue and pink. I think these would look good in any color combination, and I'm using the other die set from the Easter die sets, the sentiments. And so this one says Easter blessings. I have the little script letters adhered down to the shadow and then just pop that up in the center of the bows. And because of the colors, it still looks like a very, very Eastery, springy kind of card. Next up, we have the Artisan Petals bundle. Here's the die set. There are several dies to cut out flowers and then 2 large sentiments and shadows. And the stamp set in this bundle is one of the Concord 9th turnabout stamps. If you haven't seen these, I've used them before, but you will definitely need to check out Concord 9th to see they have a really great tool that you can use with it that is basically a piece of acetate that works underneath your paper so that you can turn it several times and ink up the stamp with different colors to create that multicolor background. I have one of the sentiment stamps and I'll just stamp it right on top of those stamped florals to create a really simple, pretty card. I hope you can tell that I had such a good time with this release. I'd love to hear if something caught your eye today. Let me know in the comments below. As always, I want to thank you so much for stopping by and spending time with me today. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you again soon. Okay, maybe we should just start over again. Wait, let me start that again. Don't bark out the window because it'll be really loud on camera, please. You're so good. Okay.